Hey everyone, welcome back to the Kirkpatrick podcast. It is Vanessa, and I am so excited to have our very special guest, Wendy Kirkpatrick, on the line. It didn't catch me? Okay, we'll try it again. Thank you. I appreciate it, Sam. Hey everyone. Oh, is that catching me? That's so weird. Okay. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Kirkpatrick podcast. It is Vanessa, and I'm so excited to be joined today with Wendy Kirkpatrick. Hi Wendy, how are you?
Hey, Vanessa, I'm great. It's good to see you as always.
Yes. And I'm excited that Wendy is here today to kind of share a little bit more of her background and experience with the Kirkpatrick model, what she's seen, and kind of her thoughts on the evolution. And hopefully she'll be kind and not think that I'm taking the model in a completely crazy direction. But she wrote the foreword to the book, y'all. So I think she's okay with it. So Wendy, you've had a front row seat to how the Kirkpatrick model has been used across many different organizations, sectors, all of that. And not just used, but also misused. What's the biggest misconception that you still see today?
Wow, it's hard to pick just one, Vanessa, because for such an elegantly simple model, it is interesting to see how people interpret it and how they use it. Um, I guess I would say probably one of the more damaging beliefs that I see out there, because you're going to use a lot of resources and not get a lot of results, is when people think that the levels are sequential and equal, where they say, okay, I'm going to spend a whole bunch of time on level one reaction, and we're really going to invest in worrying all about this reaction sheet. And I'm going to perfect that before I think about level two learning. And then gosh, maybe years from now, I'll get to the important levels, level three behavior and level four results. It's kind of all backwards when people approach it that way.
Yeah, that backwards design is so critical and crucial to the success of the model, for sure. So maybe this goes into that, but we might have a different answer to this question. When people hear Kirkpatrick, what do you wish they immediately understood, but usually don't?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that Kirkpatrick isn't just a little training evaluation model. It's really something that drives organizational capability. And what I mean by that is if you stop thinking about training as an event and evaluation as something that happens after that event, and instead have a way broader viewpoint and say, let's start with the end in mind. What are we really trying to do here? How do we drive performance to accomplish that goal? And then how can training, performance support, and really everything in an organization tie together to support the performance and get the results? That's really what Kirkpatrick has always been. But as you know, stepping up to the helm in the last few years, you kind of walked in to see where people still really are with it. And there's still an awful lot of people out there who don't really see that holistic picture yet.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you think back to where the stories you heard about Don, creating the model, writing his dissertation, what did you hear? What did he share was his original intent for the model, and what problem was he really trying to solve?
Yeah, sure. Well, Don Kirkpatrick really came upon this honestly. He was working on earning his PhD at the University of Wisconsin, and the subject of his work through the university was teaching a supervisory training program. So, back in the 1950s, what that meant was men in sort of a light industrial environment. So, he wanted to know, when I conduct a training program for them, and some of these were a week long, are they actually getting something out of it? And Are they doing a better job supervising their teams? And are their companies succeeding? So you can kind of hear in this dialogue, there are the building blocks of the 4 levels. And he really admired Dr. Raymond Katzel, who is in organizational development. And he had used the model in a completely different capacity. But Don saw the logic in these pieces and put them together. So it was a very simple means to an end for him, that he just honestly wanted to know, is the work I'm doing making a difference?
I love that. I mean, sometimes just the best things come from just a simple, honest, just good intent. I think sometimes we overcomplicate a lot of things as a chief overcomplicator over here. But truly, when you get back to the basics are just what work. Yeah. So what did good evaluation look like when the model was first introduced?
Well, I think we have to realize the world was a really pretty different place back in the 1950s and into the early 1960s when Don put these things together and started to put them into practice himself. Because what training meant then was people go into a room together and they talk. They didn't have the technology we have, the idea of informal learning. I'm sure some occurred, but people weren't really relating that to training. So we were dealing with a pretty different world. But I think that's kind of what's amazing about the Kirkpatrick model is even though that was a pretty bounded scope, look at how it still applies perfectly when we're talking about people learning through totally different modalities. Probably, on your phone, right?
Yeah.
You could be learning on your phone, sitting on your sofa in your living room, and it still is all the same thing. You learn something that helps you to perform better, and when you perform better, you get the results. So the core principles remain the same, even though the world has changed so much.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talk a lot about, and you've shared, a lot of organizations tend to over-focus maybe on some of those lower levels and spend a lot of time on them. Why do you think organizations gravitated towards using the model in more of a checklist or just as a survey framework?
I think there are a lot of reasons for that. Going back to the very beginning, when Don first really was asked to share the 4 levels as the 4 levels, because he never called them that. He just had these 4 different dimensions that he used to evaluate the effectiveness of his training. With the organization that is now ATD, Association for Talent Development, he wrote 4 articles. And the first one happened to be called Reaction. The second one was called Learning, the third Behavior, and the fourth Results. So
Imagine if he started the other one.
because they came out in that order, I think people took that really literally and, okay, that makes sense. Then from there, I think it just comes down to the fact that level 1 reaction and level 2 learning are often very much within the control of training and development, learning and performance, whatever people call this group or this function in the organization. So quite candidly, they're pretty easy to do. Now, with that said, I kind of hate it when people say that level 3 behavior is hard. You know what? It's not hard. However, I believe it takes more planning and creativity and sometimes just some good old ingenuity to get done because maybe you're not in the same place as the people who took the training. And so with all these great tech tools, maybe you need to implement some of those to be able to reach out to them. And, maybe you're going to have some barriers that you need to overcome, but gosh, you know what? If there weren't barriers to overcome, couldn't we all just be replaced by bots at this point in time? So I really just think level 3 is where we show what we can do as professionals and where we really earn our seat at the table and become part of the performance of the organization.
I love that. So what year was it that you went to the Kirkpatrick evaluation training?
When I first took it myself,
When you mentioned
honestly, Yeah, I met Jim in 2007, late 2007. And in 2008, I started the company. He and I got married, and Jim was not actually even working in the company yet. He was a consultant for a different organization. But the Kirkpatrick family, they're very academic. And so they had all these great ideas, but they said, gosh, when you just, none of us are really business people. We just don't have the wherewithal to start a business. So that was really my contribution in terms of establishing the business and creating the structure that is Kirkpatrick Partners now. So as far as the model itself and the material, I was really learning it in my first few years of starting the company. So the great part about that is Don created the beginnings of it. Jim created and refined a lot of the content. And then Jim and I together, because if people have met us, they can see we're very opposite, very yin and yang.
Yeah.
He had big ideas and great stories and just like really pulls people in. And I'm the, okay, so now we need to organize this. I need to see an outline. We need to be able to put this on paper so people can follow it and understand it. And, you know, we can make this into something that is operational. So that's really what happened in the first few years of the company, which, gosh, that's a while ago now, isn't it?
I mean, but some of the best years. I love those early 2010s, late 2000s. Those were good years.
Yeah.
For you, what was the challenge? Like, what was the hardest part of the model for you to kind of learn, adopt?
Well, you know, I was thinking about this as I knew we were going to be chatting about this. And even today, Vanessa, I will say, because I don't want people to think I just say this stuff and I don't try to live it myself, it is daily practice to really live your life according to the model. You know, my level 4 result right now, being a consultant and no longer running the company, I have the wonderful privilege to spend more time with my family, what everybody says is the most important thing. But getting real with everybody, how much time do we really do that? We say it's the very most important thing, right? Probably our family, our health, and then probably our career comes like maybe third.
Yeah.
But every hour of every day is that really the decision we make. And so I am right there with everyone else living this, that, you know, how do you really stay true to what you say are the most important things to you? And are your behaviors, the things you do every day, matching that? So right there with everybody else.
Yeah. I'm so intrigued about you packaging the model and operationalizing it. Is there anything that you wish you would have done differently or wish you'd crossed off your list of, you know, finding the time to do? And to end on a positive, what are you most proud of?
Wow. Well, I was never one to really sit back and celebrate the successes. I'll just put that out there. So something I think you and every business owner can do more of, well, everybody can do more of, is really looking at how far you came. You know, I started Kirkpatrick Partners $10,000 out of my savings account, and the blessing from Don and Jim to do it, and I figured it out. And I was so busy working in the business, I didn't even notice when we crossed the $1 million revenue mark. I literally didn't even notice until months later when I was, you know, looking at our financial statements. I'm like, oh, yeah, wow, that's when that happened. So I think celebrating successes is so important for us as human beings, but also with the model. Because, you know, when people talk about, oh, like level 3 is so hard. Well, what would probably make it a lot easier for people is if when we do the right things that are moving us towards the result we want, what if there was praise right there and a little reward? And, you know, I don't mean anything grandiose, but just like taking a second to recognize it and say, yay, you know, maybe we should go out to dinner tonight, you know, just the littlest thing. You know, that's, I think, a really big piece of it. So What am I most proud of? Um, I'm proud that I built the company, ran the company, and was in that very small single-digit percent of people who could sell the company in a meaningful way. When I passed the company to you, Vanessa, this was amazing because, I was tired, I was burned out, I just couldn't do it anymore. But I also just couldn't set it aside. It's too important. I couldn't just think like, oh, people will do the right thing and they'll use the model and it'll be fine. I needed to make sure I was putting it in the hands of somebody who has that enthusiasm that I had 16 years ago and was going to keep charging forward and doing what needs to be done. So I'm proud that I could do that and honored to still be here chatting about it.
Yes, I mean, truly, very few people actually sell a company, so that's something really major to celebrate. Absolutely. Um, I want to go back a little bit to kind of the culture around learning and whose responsibility is it? And so one question I get a lot is who's doing this right? Like what's like the pieces, right? That they have that
Mm-hmm.
that help them to ensure they're doing it right. So I've got my idea, but I'd like to hear from you, seeing so many more organizations than I have. When you've seen it done right, what is that they have that other organizations maybe don't?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to say who really does it right. And I just learned this through the lens of Kirkpatrick Partners because I hadn't had a lot of personal experience with it, is every branch of the US military.
Mm-hmm.
And it shouldn't be surprising to us, but it's amazing that they can take really a very structured environment, which thank goodness it is, right?
Yeah.
This is so important, keeping all of us safe. And when you put training into that, what's really amazing is number one, they make sure it gets done. People actually get the training and they don't do the, oh, well, we got busy, so we were focusing on, revenue oriented activities and things. They understand that the training always needs to be in there, or, in the case of the military, people could lose their lives.
Mm-hmm.
So it's literally that important. So they do great with the structure and the discipline they have. But then flipping over to another sector, when I look at corporations, what they do great is moving quickly and tactically. If there's a change in the market, many corporations, even pretty big corporations, can turn on a dime because in a lot of cases, they don't have people's lives at stake. So they have the ability to do that. So the thing that's nice is, this can work in any environment. And we've worked with every kind of company and we've been able to show that. So no one has to feel like, oh, I'm in this environment where there's just no way that I'm going to be able to make a difference or create value. It can be done in the most structured environments, and it can be done in the most reactive and less structured environments.
So it sounds like two pillars is that like consistency and determination and commitment, but then also the ability to be agile as needed and to shift to accommodate differences. Yeah, I would agree with that. Absolutely. I would also say, from what I've seen, there has to be a true commitment from everybody that we are going to be doing this. And where I see a lot of fails is when organizations will only send, like when we do workshops, right? When they only send their L&D staff through the workshop, like to like align, right? Yeah, it's not hard to get us all bought in and speaking the same language. What we need to do is get the rest of the business in the room so we can share data, we can build those business partnerships, we can understand how we show up to you so that we can adjust as needed.
Oh, that's so true, Vanessa. And that's probably been a big frustration for a lot of training professionals who totally get it. They know they need everybody else with them. And I think the challenge of our industry And what you express so well in your upcoming book is that we need to find the language and the venues to really get everybody working together.
Yeah, absolutely. Why do you think strong program level evaluation doesn't automatically translate to organizational impact?
Well, it's pretty much what you just said, Vanessa. Imagine if you're a restaurant and you only train the servers. And boy, you make sure the servers have good training and you evaluate it and they're great at serving people. But what if the hostess can't get people seated? What if the kitchen doesn't cook the food, or they don't have the things ready for the servers to bring out? It's not going to be a good experience. People aren't going to love that restaurant. It's not going to work out. So it's the same with training. We can't just take this one function and be successful. We really need to partner with the business to have a good, comprehensive understanding of what performance is needed for the company to succeed or for a specific mission to be accomplished. Mm-hmm. And then we need to make sure the training is preparing people for that. And most importantly, we need to come together in that performance environment, whether it's in the office, in the field, wherever it is. And that's where that creativity and ingenuity comes in. How are we going to support people so that they have the tools they need to do the right thing on the job? How are we going to reward them when they do? And how are we going to help to steer people when they're getting off track to get everybody doing what they need to do so those results are accomplished? So training cannot possibly do this alone. We can set a great example. We can pull people together. But we really need involvement, direction, and teamwork from many different parts of the company for this to work.
I love what you said about, which I think I'm going to borrow. Training can only prepare, right? And I think we can use more of that language with our stakeholders, right? It's not just about training you can only train knowledge and skills, right? And we can help with attitude, confidence, and commitment, right? But if the issue isn't any of those things, it's not really a training problem, or training can't be the only solution. And so, but when I think of it as a preparation, I think it also helps to click for those that are not in our world, to understand that, it's just that first step, but it's not going to be the entire solution. There needs to be more. I think that's a big one too for me, is how do we break down what this means and how to share this work in a way that makes sense and in a way that is easily understood, right? What do we talk about? Speaking the language of the business, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's really a broadening and merging of roles. And for some people, this is not comfortable, and I get it. When people think what I'm going to do is create or deliver training content, and then in walks Kirkpatrick, and we say, well, actually, what you'll be needing to do is partner with the business and understand what kind of performance they're looking for, and find out lots of small, lower level results they're looking for, and ultimately what they're trying to accomplish. And then, you're not quite done there. We're also going to be asking you to partner with them to help with performance support and improvement. That's a pretty different job description. But especially with as fast as things are changing in the world with technology, whenever I got that kind of opportunity when I was in corporate training, I jumped at it. Yeah. Because when you broaden yourself, it opens the doors and you have more opportunities. So, for any training people who are finding this a little bit scary, instead of looking at, oh my gosh, AI might take my job, what I would be doing is making relationships around my organization, or, if you work with clients and your clients' architecture, and I'd be saying, what are all the different ways that I can be of service and support and broaden my role?
Yeah, absolutely. Where do you think organizations need to go next, and where should they evolve when it comes to evaluation and learning and performance?
Well, what I would love to see, Vanessa, and you write about this a lot in your book as well, is for organizations to truly get out of the silos. And this is hard, right? When there's change, there's fear. This is human nature. And it's understandable. Change can be very intimidating. But I hope people will rise above that and realize that they need to work holistically from start to finish. Training is not going to work all on its own, and the business is not going to work well without the support of training, especially with the rapid change in our world. It's no longer knowledge, it's adaptability that is making people successful. And what is adaptability? It's learning things real fast. Yeah. So learning has a really important role in all of this, but it is only one role. So training professionals really need to round themselves and involve themselves.
What advice do you have for me as the book comes out, and kind of what was it like for you after your book came out? I don't know what to expect.
It's exciting and it's fun. So celebrate it, enjoy it, talk to people, sign your books. That's the fun part. Then there will also be the critiques of your book and what people think of it. And I think you're already really good at this already. Everybody has an opinion and you're very open to hearing them. It can be hard sometimes. You have to have kind of thick skin. And there'll be people who have different viewpoints. One thing I saw happen quite a bit too is it was fairly evident to me that people didn't read the book, but then were saying what things were missing from the book. So there will probably be some misunderstandings like that, and you just diplomatically clear them up. But I think your book is going to do a lot of good, a fresh, new perspective on the model. Really showing why it has worked for so long, and then some fine tuning so people understand how it works with what is to come.
Yeah, absolutely. It really was just fine tuning when it came to looking at, what needed to potentially be adjusted. What legacy do you want to leave on the world?
I think for me, the biggest thing is building the confidence of training professionals that they're not just trainers, they're not just anything. If a training professional really takes your book to heart, Vanessa, and takes even one or two pieces of the advice that you give throughout and really punctuate, they will change the world too. So to have been part of that, to really help people to grow and understand, at the end of the day, I think everybody wants to perform amazingly. Mm-hmm. And to be able to share such a practical way to really do it, like not let's just talk about it, but here are some practical steps you can take. And if you follow these, you will actually create amazing performance in yourself and others. That's really what got me out of bed every day, and, going on this for 10, 12, 14 hours a day is just what an amazing opportunity to be able to help people with that.
What are you doing with your time now?
A lot of different things. People are so funny when they're like, are you bored?
No,
like, oh my gosh.
I truly have never, I don't think I've asked you that question because I know you and I know you will find something to do.
Yeah, one thing I realized is I thought after selling the company, the pace would change, but I realize now the pace is within me, so it never will. So I think the biggest difference now is there's a lot more variety in what I'm doing. So that's pretty fun. Obviously, I still pop in every now and then with Kirkpatrick Partners and say hi. And I'm able to spend a ton of time with my mom, who is in her 80s. And so that's amazing. And also with my husband, Brian, and his family, and my sisters. So really kind of balancing out a lot of family time that I missed, living far away from them for a while. And my husband Brian and I just got done with an enormous home renovation. So that was a friend of mine just sent me a really funny joke that said, "Don't be afraid of that 8-week renovation. It'll be the best 4 months of your life, and after 8 years, you'll be finished." It was just hysterical.
So true.
That's about right. At least it didn't take us 8 years.
True.
So we've been doing that, and then I've just been, cooking, walking, doing health stuff
well, you're like Benjamin Button. I've never seen you look better. When you jumped on, I was like, what moisturizer is she using? And don't gatekeep. I want to know. Amazing. I mean, I guess it's sleep.
What's really funny is yesterday I just got this big cheap tub of CeraVe. So there you go. Girl. That's what's working for me today.
Listen, what did we say at the beginning of the podcast? Simple and the basics is sometimes truly all you need. That $150 La Mer cream, although it is really good, is not always necessary.
I'm not going to show you my drawer of stuff like that. We'll just, yeah.
Awesome. Well, Wendy, thank you so much for joining us. I'm just so honored that you would even read the book, let alone write the foreword, and give me your blessing. And I want to thank you because you've been such a mentor to me over the last almost 3 years. That's insane. 3 of 16, right? So the company changed hands every 16 years. So I've got 13 more to go. Lucky number 13. Although, I don't know if I could last another 13 years. I'm tired. The kids are keeping me busy. I need to go lay somewhere for a little bit. But Wendy, thank you again. And friends, I appreciate you all being here. I would love to hear your thoughts and perspective on this conversation and your thoughts on the book. Just remember, I am a human on the other side. So be nice, be constructive. And I will catch you all on the next episode of the Kirkpatrick podcast. Bye, y'all.